Hi everybody, welcome back to the Arma 3 Eden editor and one of the last videos in my series about how to create DayZ themed scenario missions for Arma 3 using the Ravage mod in the Eden editor. So in this video I'm going to show you how you can add a bit of background to your mission to give people an idea of what the story is beyond just being DayZ and go around shooting zombies and shooting enemies, and also how to add simple tasks as well to give your players something to do, because one of the big strengths of Eden and Arma 3 is that you can very easily add tasks for people to do, whether it be that to go and kill certain vehicles or certain soldiers or clear areas or explore areas or do different things. It's very simple to do, unlike in DayZ. And that's one of the main differences between something like an Arma 3 DayZ or a DayZ standalone, the fact that you have the ability to have tasks. Now, whether that's a good thing or not, it's a very different experience, isn't it? The beauty of DayZ is it's open-ended. You do what you like. But with Arma 3, you can have tasks. But first off, let's have a look at adding a bit of background to the story. So if we go to Systems and we go to Intel, let's go to the map view. Let's scroll out a bit. What we can do is we can add diary records. So if we just drag these onto the map to make them live, then you can right click on them and we can scroll down. And who owns this diary record? Well, it's players, isn't it? All playable units. And let's talk about the situation we're in. So the situation is we're in the zombie apocalypse. Now this will kind of make more sense when you see it, apocalypse, on the map. So description: Chernarus is a zombie-filled wasteland with enemy CSAT units moving in. Okay, so that's the situation we're in. Let's add another one. And let's call this one mission. NATO recon mission to explore and identify and neutralize enemy units. Okay, so let's just say okay to that. Right, let's dive in. Oh, I tell you, wait a minute. Who did I say that belonged to? Owner is playable units. There we go. Let's play the scenario, and you'll see what that means in terms of the map. Also, it appears when you first load up the scenario when you add it, when you export it as a single player scenario. So if we press M to bring up the map, we've got our briefing. So the situation is the apocalypse. Chernarus is a zombie-filled wasteland. Our intrepid squad will explore and identify any CSAT threats. There's our mission, NATO recon mission, to explore and identify and neutralize enemy units. Zombie apocalypse, that's one I put earlier. So as you can see, these are adding a little bit of flavour to your map. Okay, so now let's come out of that. Let's go back to the Eden editor. Now let's give our soldiers, let's give ourselves a simple task to do. Now tasks are within the systems module, and then within Intel. And a task, zoom in a bit, normally always comprises of three things. Okay, it comprises of creating the task itself, a trigger. Ooh. And then if we go back to the systems, a task state. So, for example, the task could be explore this tank, check out this tank. The trigger to whether the task was successful could be whether your soldiers are close to the tank. And so what would happen is, as your soldiers go north and you get near this tank, if that happens, this trigger will trigger this task state to be successful, which will trigger this task to be completed. the best way is to play around with this, because once you've actually done it, it's kind of becomes fairly obvious. So let's go into the task first, to create the task, and give it a title. So who owns this? Well, it's going to be playable units. It's going to be, so the task is investigate the tank. Description: find the tank and make sure it is empty. Okay. So that's what our mission is, to go to this tank here. There's a tank there, by the way, and see if it's empty. So the trigger, so if we do the attributes to this, the trigger is going to be whether we're close to it or not. Now the trigger at the moment is an ellipse, so let's give the ellipse a area of 10 by 10. It could be a square. Okay, and the activation for this trigger is any player. So if any player gets within this trigger, the trigger will then trigger our state. And then what we do is we can drag this over to the tank. All right, let's make these go closer. So what we're saying is, if this trigger gets triggered and we connect it to this task state of being, if we go into the attributes, succeeded, if we now also link the task to the task state, what will happen is, as our soldiers come up here and they get near the tank, that will then trigger this trigger to say that the task state is now succeeded, which will then say this task has succeeded. Now, if we go into the map, you'll be able to kind of see this a little bit more obvious. Let's go up a bit. So you can see this blue kind of column here around the tank. So this is the area that we have to reach. You can't see this on the map, but if we reach this area and we enter this area near the tank, the task will be completed. Now, once you've kind of set up your task like this, where you've got your trigger and you've got your task state and you've got your task itself, you want to put the task over the top of where people should be going, like that. And you'll see why in a second. So if we now play the scenario, if we go into this, we're going to look at the map, and then we're going to see what happens. Right, so here we are. So if we bring up the map with M, we've now got tasks. So our task is to investigate the tank, and you see it's appeared on the map. Now if we assign this now, that then goes yellow, and see now that has now appeared. So we know where we've got to go. We've got to go up here. So let's wander up here, and come on fellas, with me. Here they all come. This might be a bit choppy because I'm just recording this on my laptop. I'll try and reduce movement so the frame rate stays up. Dun, 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 dun. Right, so we're getting close to the tank now. We're probably not inside the column yet. So let's see what happens when we get really close to the tank. Task completed. Investigate the tank. So that's done. So if we go back to the map screen, you'll see that's been done. Investigate the tank completed. Now, hopefully, that's probably, again, like I say in lots of these videos, triggered some imagination, and you're thinking, ooh, that's pretty cool, that, isn't it? And that's a really very, very, very simple way of creating a task. So you can imagine, say, within Solnici, just up north, we could add, say, a zombie horde in one of these. Let's go here. So you could say investigate this house, all right? And you could spawn a zombie horde around the house, and maybe you could go into the props and you could add a supply crate inside the house. So the soldiers would come up, they'd have to kill all the zombies, go inside the house, and they would find the supply crate. Or maybe there's a computer, that's a nice simple one. Or maybe you could go over to Northwest Airfield, where we've placed all these baddies. Okay, and you could put a investigate, the south end, or well, I'll tell you what a better one is. You would do something like you could set a trigger inside of here and say investigate the hangar. and then you could have enemy soldiers defending the hangar. So they would only get a success tag when your players had gone inside the hangar, but in order to get there, they would have to kill the soldiers on the outside. And that's how easy it is to create those simple tasks within the Eden editor. Now, if you look in the link below the description of this video, I've done a link to a video that tells you how to make kill tasks. Because what you can also do is, let's just move these around so you can see them a bit better. Let's put that over there. What you could have is you can have a trigger that says if these players are dead, if these units are dead, the task is a success. So a task could be, one that I've done, for example, is destroy the anti-aircraft tank at Balota Airfield. So your task is to go there, blow up the anti-aircraft tank, and then you would get a success. And that video in the description down below shows you how to do that, or it could be to kill soldiers. But let me go in as well, and let me show you some other things. So, for example, let's have a look at some other trigger examples. So, you could say, we had the airfield as an example, Northwest Airfield, where we had the soldiers. So you could put, let's use another example. Green Mountain, where you have the big aerial tower, don't you? The big radio aerial, and there's the buildings underneath. What you could do is you could put some enemy AI soldiers there, and you could set the trigger to be OP4, so enemy soldiers are not present. All right. So you would put the soldiers down there, and the trigger would be not present. You would put the trigger on top of them, and so the task would be eliminate the enemy soldiers at Green Mountain. And then if you use this sort of trigger of opposing forces not present, in order for that trigger to trigger the success module, you would have to kill all those soldiers that are at Green Mountain. That's another very, very simple way of doing it. And kind of with those three types of tasks, explore this area, kill these soldiers, or clear this area, you can make some really fantastic scenarios for your players, forcing and yourself, to be honest, to wander around and explore different areas of the map. Now, you may well be saying, well, wait a minute, Rob. If you're making these scenarios for yourself, surely you kind of know what's going to happen. Well, the truth is, though, you don't, because one of the beauties with the AI, especially within Arma 3 and then with the zombies within the Arma 3 Ravage mod, is once they start wandering around and doing their thing, anything can happen. In a similar way, when you play like a campaign mission, hopefully in the latest Battlefields and Call of Duty, it's not always the enemies don't always react in exactly the same way. And the same thing happens in Arma 3. So, we in an earlier video we put this tank, didn't we, at the airfield, and this helicopter flying around. So who knows, when you come up here, zombies may well be spawning. The enemy forces may well be engaging zombies and getting involved in a pitched battle with the zombie horde that you've created. Meanwhile, you turn up and start picking them off for a distance, and the zombies start turning at you, and you have all this emergent gameplay that happens. And it's very, very exciting. So you can put tasks all around the map, put little booby traps, but you're really getting into mission design, game mission design. You could have something like, so you need to go to Starry Sabor. One of the things could be go to Starry Sabor and Novi Sabor. So that at some point, your player, you're going to have to go to Novi Sabor, and then you've got another mission very close by, another task close by Starry Sabor. So what's stopping you putting some enemy units or some hordes in between the two towns? Because at some point you've got to travel between those 2 points, and then all sorts of hilarity would ensue. So there we go. You probably noticed there's lots of different types of tasks as well. I encourage you to play around and explore. Look on YouTube. I may well be doing more videos about it. I'm not quite sure. I have literally just scratched the surface of what you can do with the Arma 3 Eden editor, with DayZ theme stuff with Ravage, but obviously creating scenarios as well. And I don't think I've mentioned it in this video, but one of the things I recommend is, although as DayZ players, we're often quite tied to Chernarus, the Chernarus Redux map on Arma 3 is very resource intensive, and the game can chug a bit, and I would highly recommend you do this sort of thing using the Stratus map, which is much, much smaller, and the game runs much, much smoother. Now, the kind of one of the final things you'll want to do is when you've kind of sorted this out and you've saved it, you'll want to go scenario export to single player, which means that you can then it will then appear in your scenarios when you fire up Arma 3. And then if you're feeling really confident with what you do, you can publish it to the Steam Workshop. In that case, what you'll want to do is you'll want to go through some of these things and add a picture, add some more text explaining what it all is, and you can share it with the community. So there we go. Right, well, all the other videos that are in this series of videos about how to create DayZ themed Arma 3 missions based around the Ravage mod, they're all in the description below this video too. So if you're interested in this, go and have a look. And I can't recommend enough, if you've got a half decent PC that can play DayZ, pick up a copy of Arma 3 cheap. It goes on sale all the time. We can go somewhere like cdkeys.com, and play around with the Eden editor. I'm very excited for the Eden editor. Now I know I'm 7 years behind the times. Arma 3 came out in 2013, didn't it? But I really hope that with Arma 4, and then maybe DayZ 2 or the next big up-to-date to DayZ 2, we get something like this for editing on DayZ and creating missions in DayZ, because it is so cool. Right, so there we go. That's enough from me. I hope you've enjoyed this series of videos. If you have, hit the like button. If you want to see more of the same, press subscribe. If you've got any other questions or subjects you want me to cover, write that in the comments down below, and I'll see you all again soon.